Okay, so welcome everyone. This evening we have the lovely Kathy Brooke with us to take us on a bit of a journey around confidence. So Kathy is a personal development coach and an expert on public speaking and is going to be talking us through some of her recommendations and insights on this. So I'm so delighted to welcome you, Kathy, this evening.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. We're going to talk about some confidence, communication, and obviously we discussed the idea of imposter syndrome as well, which seems to be quite prevalent in the tech industry and all the other industries as well. But this is going to be specifically tailored to you tech people out there. Now, as you're going to notice, Kirsty's going to completely take over the screen share because you're the techie people. I am not. So there's a high chance that I would completely get it wrong. So I'm just going to get this ready so that we can go for it. And I think we're ready.
Okay, fab. Thank you so much.
Lovely. So hopefully, in theory, I can't see you, but you should be able to see my first slide, which is the confidence, communication, and imposter syndrome in tech with me. So just a little bit about me so you know exactly who I am and what I can bring and help you with today. I do a lot of one-to-one personal development and communications coaching. So that's looking at overcoming your hurdles, any barriers or mindset problems that are holding you back from achieving your full potential, be that professionally or personally. Do a bit of corporate coaching, public speaking and presenting coaching. And my background is as a professional actor and singer, which is not what we're going to be covering tonight. So don't worry about that one. You don't need to do any vocal warm-ups and voice rehabilitation. So that's just a little bit about me. Feel free to drop me a message or add me on LinkedIn if you've got any questions about any of those bits and pieces. But today we're looking at confidence and communication and imposter syndrome. So why would you want to be a confident and engaging speaker or person within your workplace? Why would you want to have that confidence? Well, I've put a few ideas up here: career advancement, communication, networking, dealing with pressure, mentoring, building rapport, persuading, listening skills, leadership skills, communication, sales, and marketing, and obviously your confidence. So these are just a few reasons why it's worth looking at becoming confident and becoming able to speak and present clearly as well, which again comes down to confidence. Now, there might be a few things that you're looking at on this picture and you're thinking, yeah, that's exactly me. When I go to networking events in person back in the 80s when we could, you might have felt that you kind of sat back a bit and you weren't confident enough to speak up. You might feel that if you're at work or if you've got an idea, you just aren't ready to bring it to the table yet. Or if you're doing a pitch or a presentation, that confidence is really holding you back in your career and in your personal life. This can go across the board from speaking your truth. So this is what we're going to explore today. So hopefully some of you are sat there thinking, I absolutely get this. So let's have a look. So I want you to have a think about what are the potential roles within your industry, in the tech sector, whatever area that you look at. Again, I've been working with people recently in cybersecurity, gaming, digital agencies, software development, tech developers, coding, all the stuff that I fully don't understand and looks like a completely different language to me, but the roles within your industry. So what communication skills and confidence skills with that are required? So where would you need that confidence to be able to speak up, to be able to object an opinion, to be able to take a problem to the CEO or the CTO or the development team? And what opportunities are available to you in that sector? And where are the communication skills required? So, for example, the Digital City Festival or Prolific North Festivals, what opportunities are available there for you to speak? Do you need the confidence to do that? Is that something you struggle with? Or just being able to speak to your peers and your co-workers and get your point across? So have a think about the roles within your industry, maybe the role you're in, the role you're aspiring to. What communication skills are required? So is networking important? Listening skills, sales? Do you have to be able to sell your idea to the team, to the clients? And what opportunities are available to you? So you might be sat there thinking, oh, well, that's all okay, but I'd like to do some mentoring. Okay, so let's get you confident on that. What communication skills are required for that? So just have a quick think about that. And with all of this on this session today, please feel free to write down any notes, send them across to me, get some stuff in the chat. We'll have a talk about it after when we do a little bit of a Q&A. So feel free to have a chat and get that written out. So When we talk about confidence, what does it look like? It's not just shaking in the corner like some kind of meme or gif that you might have seen. It can come across the whole board. So fight, flight, or freeze, the idea of getting either aggressive or standoffish. Flight, just running, just absolutely doing one because you're terrified, or freezing. So as if you're talking and you're just a bit like lost and I don't know what to do. Oh my goodness, everyone's staring at me. Feeling out of your comfort zone, feeling vulnerable. Even that feeling of vulnerability, just that slight bit of vulnerability comes down to your confidence. The feeling of being found out, to be an imposter, to be judged, the elusive what if? What if they find out? What if this goes wrong? What if? The risk, that anxiety, just that pure anxiety. Now, this can come in a form of voice loss. So there's a muscle around here that can just clamp up if you're feeling nervous. So even your confidence could come down to feeling like you just struggle to speak as clearly, avoiding, just complete avoidance of any situations, that which again for career advancement is not ideal. Having that lump in the throat, being passive and agreeing. So the idea of somebody speaking, you not really agreeing and wanting to get your point across, but going, okay, yeah, yeah, that's great. That. Sweating, irritability, sleeplessness, bitterness. Now, this is a bit of a taboo one. The idea of being, I don't want to say jealous because that's such a loaded word, but that bitterness when other people do well and you feel a little bit bitter about it. Again, it's not a great feeling, is it? But I don't want you to think that it makes you a bad person. It could be a trigger of confidence loss in yourself, and it's a projection. So we can look at that. It doesn't mean that you're a bad human being. Absolutely not. It's just something we can look at. And if we get your confidence up, that might dissipate. And the general feelings of being a bit low. If you're not confident to speak your truth, if you keep that for long enough, surely that's going to suppress you a bit and make you feel a bit naff. So how many of these can you identify with? And again, feel free to pop any comments in, or if for you, you're a bit like, you know what, I'm not confident enough to do that. Don't do it. Write it down. Just make a mental note. It's not a problem. So are you experiencing any of these when you're out of your comfort zone? When are you out of your comfort zone? That's what I want you to have a quick think about. So moving on. This comes down to why. So we look at why is that belief there? So when we talk about confidence loss or any kind of exposure or feeling exposed, we're going to look at why. So for example, let's look at public speaking, a really, really classic example of feeling out of your comfort zone, speaking up, speaking your truth. At some point, you've created a belief around that. So that might be from an experience. So I'm going to give you a really basic example so you can see where I'm coming from with this one. Let's say you are sat in class in year 7. So you're 11, 12, 13, whatever that might be. You're sat in class and you can see Joe Bloggs over here answering all the questions that the teacher's asking, putting his hand up, her hand up, their hand up, speaking out, giving a lot of input into the class. You can see this going on. At the other side of the class, you can see a group of students having a giggle, calling him a nerd, laughing, maybe shouting some nasty comments or childish comments. Now, your experience here, as whoever you are sat here, is seeing that, okay, well, by speaking out and by being vulnerable in any situation, by being against the norm, and in this situation, and the norm is a sea of people just sat still, not really getting involved. By going against the norm, I'm exposing myself, and there's a risk of being laughed at, ostracized, being made to feel different, being out of my comfort zone. So you've had an experience there where you've seen this equals this. So your belief becomes, by speaking out, by going against the grain, by stating my opinion, that leads to being laughed at, being vulnerable, being picked on, all these potential negatives. So you've seen that. So your belief says speaking out equals laughed at, vulnerable. You've then validated that. So for example, in this experience, you didn't speak up. You didn't answer any questions. You just sat in the class doing your own thing as you were, like everybody else. And that validated your belief. Because what happened there is you didn't get laughed at. So your head goes, see, told you. You stayed still. You didn't put yourself out there. You didn't push against the grain. And look, you're fine. So that belief has served you really, really well. And this is why, although those beliefs, we can sit there and think, yeah, but it's ridiculous. At some point, it served you well. So at some point, a lack of confidence or holding yourself back or whatever that might be for you has served you well. Now we can look at anything. For example, let's go with an experience being you always really, really heavily revised for all your exams and you really worked really, really hard and your parents helped you believe or made you believe or encouraged that hard work equals success. What happened there is you worked really hard and you did well in your exams. Cool. So you've got an experience and then the belief becomes work really, really hard, be completely prepared and you'll be fine. You validated that because that is exactly how you've got through school, exams, coding schools, whatever that might be. You've worked really hard. You've got the results. Fantastic. What about when you go to an interview and they throw you questions that you haven't been able to prepare for and you don't know what's going to come up? Now that goes completely against your belief. So your why here is, well, why am I feeling so overwhelmed, so anxious, so worried? Because your belief has been created that you've got to work and make sure you've got everything prepared and that equals success. However, in this situation, you haven't got the preparation done. You can't because it's ad hoc. They're just going to ask you questions. You can prepare to a degree. So that's where we get these confidence losses, this feeling out of our comfort zone, this imposter syndrome, this anxiety, this worry. Again, you can go all the way back to, childhood beliefs that have been instilled in us, or even more commonly in the workplace. Something might have happened where you spoke out or you might have had a bad experience with something. You've created a belief. You've validated it by working in a certain way that made it work okay for you. Maybe you didn't speak up anymore and you were fine. Everything was fine. Therefore, when we come to want to push out of our comfort zone, want to network, we want to talk a bit more. We've learned not to. And that's why we need to learn a new belief system. And that's what we're going to have a look at. So I hope that makes sense as to why these things have a formula and how they even become, I don't want to call them problems, but responses that aren't ideal. Now, you might not be able to think of a trigger or something that you can attach back to that idea. It might be something that you just witnessed when you were younger and it's just a subconscious belief. Or we go back to the vulnerability idea. As humans, we are tribal animals. We always have been, think prehistoric caveman days, even going forward. If we're in packs, we were safe. If we were in a pack in living in caves or whatever that might have looked like, if you went out of that pack, if you went out of that unit, you were vulnerable. You could get eaten by a lion. You might get attacked. You might get ostracized. You might get attacked by another tribe. So we are inherently pack animals. And if we go out of that, then we're vulnerable. Look at all of those things we talked about. Mentoring, you're out of the pack. Networking, you're on your own, you're exposed. Public speaking, pitching, you're out of the pack. Sales, they're waiting to receive your information. You're out of the pack. So that's why we get this vulnerable feeling. There's nothing wrong with you. It's completely normal. So how are we going to overcome it? So we look at your experience, we look at your belief, the validation and the experience that you've strengthened. So again here, bullied, school, college, exam prep, relationships, if you've been on a sports team, whatever that might be, you've created a belief, X equals Y. You've avoided or repeated that belief to validate it, to say, yep, look, I'm safe because I've avoided or repeated this. And that's just strengthened it. So how can we overcome this and get you more confident? Well, what was the truth in the situation? What was the reality of the situation? And make it impersonal. So those first two questions, for example, the truth in that situation, when you are sat at school watching this kind of picking on, laughing at vulnerability, what's the truth? Well, we know what kids are like. Anything different and they will pick up on it. If you go against the grain, if you make the class popular kid or whatever that is feel remotely undervalued, you know exactly, as adults, as young adults, we know the reality of the situation now. And if you struggle with that, imagine you are talking, which sounds absolutely mental at 6:45 on a Monday night. Imagine you're talking to the child version of you. So imagine that you're sat there witnessing this as a child. What would you tell that child? So for me, If I was looking at a small version of me who was seeing this going on, I'd say to them, look, it's nothing to do with you. It's not you that they're laughing at. They're kids. They pick on anything that's slightly different. It means nothing to them. So what was the truth in the situation? What's the reality of the situation? So what can you really learn about that? That grades and exams and things like that, it's not the be all and end all. It doesn't mean that you're a good person or a bad person. You can break out of that. Is the belief you've got worth holding on to for any reason? Now, this is a really interesting one, and one that I talk to my clients about a lot. When a lot of my clients struggle with self-confidence issues, I will say to them, is there anything good about having a lack of confidence? And they look at me a bit like, what am I doing here with you, woman? Is there anything good about having a lack of confidence? Now, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, I guess so. It stops me from being arrogant, or it stops me from being cocky or obnoxious. Okay. It's not one or the other. So I can't say to you, right, do you know what? Let's look at your self-confidence. You're feeling really unconfident. And if we get you feeling a bit more confident, you're going to turn into an absolute plonker. You're going to be a really arrogant, nasty person. It doesn't work like that. It's a scale. So we're going to work on a sliding scale. So if you are currently feeling really unconfident, very little confidence in yourself, if we get that to a really good position where you're just feeling, yeah, I can do this. I am confident public speaking. I welcome feedback. I like that. I feel secure in the knowledge that I'm talking about or whoever I'm talking to. That isn't going to turn you into a really arrogant, almost caricature. So just be aware that it's not one or the other. It's a sliding scale. Much like if you have someone who's really arrogant and nasty and full of themselves or whatever that might look like, almost a character, if we worked on reducing that, we're not going to turn them into a shell of a human just crumbling under this pressure and this negativity with crippling self-doubt. It's just about making and creating a manageable and a comfortable place for your confidence to sit in. So what I would like you to answer is, what is your belief? So if you're feeling a little bit inconfident or imposter syndrome, or you feel like you can't do something, what's the belief? What do you believe about yourself? Oh, I'm not confident enough to do that. I'm not, whatever that might be. We're going to debunk that by looking at the truth in the situation. So that might be, I'm not confident enough to public speak. Okay. Why? Where's that come from? Has it been something younger? Has it been something you've witnessed? What was the truth in that? Is it worth holding on to? Probably not, because it's probably holding you back. What's a new belief? So it's the idea of, if you can create a belief, you've got something to work towards. So what's a new belief? So I've put some ideas here. Public speaking is exciting. I love developing myself and taking on new challenges. So for example, the opposite would be, I can't public speak and I hate being out of my comfort zone because I feel vulnerable. So let's go for the opposite. I love developing myself and taking on new challenges. And if we can believe that, if we can tell ourselves that, we're going to focus our energy towards that. So you're more likely to make choices, have conversations that slowly help you develop and take on new challenges. Now, with any form of development, and again, this is something I say to all my clients, you don't want to focus on what you're struggling with or what the negative is. So like a really blasé example about this is, if you wanted to get healthy or lose weight or whatever that might be for you, you wouldn't focus on what you don't want. Oh, I want to, and I talk with my clients about this, try not to focus on what you want to lose. I don't want to feel like this. I want to lose weight. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to look like that. I don't want. You're constantly focusing on what you don't want. But what are you going to gain? Because unless you're going to gain something, why on earth would you do it? And that's why things like diets are so difficult, that focus on losing pounds, focus on what you're going to gain. I want to gain health. I want to gain fitness. I want to gain strength. I want to gain confidence. Now that sounds a lot better to me. I'm more likely to think, yeah, do you know what? I will make better choices if I'm going to gain something, as opposed to constantly thinking about what I'm going to lose. And it's just this idea of having a replacement belief of what you're going to gain. I love developing myself and taking on new challenges. I love feedback in order to develop. I feel really secure, as opposed to, I don't want to be feeling this negative. You're always focusing on the negative there. A little story for you. When I was younger, my mum said they took me to a massive, one of these big Tesco industrial car parks when the shop was closed, probably on a Sunday. And it had one lamppost in the middle of it. And they were teaching me how to ride my bike. I hope I was very young. So I'm trying to learn how to ride my bike. And my mum said to me, explicitly said, don't ride into the lamppost or mind the lamppost. So obviously, all I'm focusing on is the lamppost, and out of that whole car park, straight into it. Because I'm looking, thinking, yeah, I don't want to go near there. Don't want to go near there. But obviously, if I'm focusing, I'm going towards it. And that is why I don't cycle ever anywhere. But the idea of if we focus on what we don't want, we're naturally putting our energy towards it. So when you're looking at confidence, when you're looking at imposter syndrome and resilience, focus on what you do want. How do you want to feel? And I saw a quote, I think it was in a book I read recently. I can't remember which one. If I find it, I'll write it in the comments, about how would the person you want to be respond? And what would the person that you want to be do in that situation? And that's a lovely idea. Because if you're struggling with confidence, think about what you would do if you were confident. How would you tell a friend? How would you advise somebody? It's very easy to do that and to help somebody else, but we struggle with ourselves. Just some ideas. Now, let's have a look at communication. Confidence, communication. When we think about communication, the little picture on the bottom I absolutely love because it just sums it up beautifully. We think it's about us. So, for example, this webinar that I'm presenting to you, if I had some self-doubt or some lack of confidence about this work, not saying that I don't in other areas of life, I think everybody does. We've all got pros and cons for areas. If there is a lack of confidence in what I'm delivering now, I'm going to start thinking, oh, yeah, but they're looking at me. What if I go wrong? Oh, they'll think I'm daft. And what if it's rubbish? Me. It's not about that. Communication is a transactional process. So all I'm thinking right now is knowing my audience, knowing the people that are on this call, on this session, how can I help you? So what's my role? And I think about my business values, communication, development, honesty, integrity. Right, okay. What problem am I solving for my audience? So I've come on thinking communication, integrity, honesty, development. Okay. What problem am I solving for you guys? Well, I'm guessing if you've clicked onto it, you're either interested or struggling with or want to know a bit more about communication, confidence, imposter syndrome, mindset, all of this stuff. So the problem I may be solving is lack of confidence. Okay. How am I helping them? Well, I'm going to give them as much information as I can to help them feel more confident and maybe reach further in their careers, in their personal lives, be more honest, be able to speak their truths. That's how I'm helping them. How do they receive information best? Well, this is a webinar, so I've only got one option with that one. And how will you know when it's solved? Well, my audience will be able to take away some practical tips and tools. Now, already, this webinar has become less about, oh, yeah, but what if they think this about me and I feel really exposed and everyone's looking at me? And the whole thing has shifted on its head. And it's no longer about me, per se. It's about what I can give to you. And that is really, really key, I believe, personally, for public speaking, presenting, communication, and confidence. Because brutal as it sounds, it's not about you. Just as this webinar, it's not about me. The last thing this webinar is about me. It's about what I can give to you, how I can solve your problem, how I can help you. That's what this is about. And all too often we get so wrapped up in this worry of self-image, of self-sabotage. What if I do this? What if people think this? I'm out of, going back to the vulnerability, I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm ostracized. No, you've got a platform to think about your business values, to think about how you can help other people. We can always do it. If a friend rings us and asks us for advice, we can give them so much advice in the world with all the love in the world because it's not about us. It's about how we can help them. And that's exactly the same with communication. Mentoring, one-to-one, sales pitches. A sales pitch, even though if you might be a salesman, woman thinking, oh, I've got to get this. No, if you're selling something, how is it going to help that person? That's how you're going to get a sale. I could sit here and tell you how wonderful this pen is. Oh, it's beautiful. It's got this. It does that. It's a magic pen. Unless I know if you've got a pen or not, it's no use. It can't help you. However, I could say to you, do you have a pen? If you said no, I've solved your problem. There you go. I don't need to sell it to you and make it all glamorous. I need to know what your problem is and how I can solve that. So when you're thinking of confidence and communication, don't make it about you. Make it about the other person. How can you help them? Sticking to your business values. Now, that's something I'm really, really passionate about, because I've got a lot of my clients who now do LinkedIn videos, and they came to me terrified of putting their content on LinkedIn, of speaking on LinkedIn, until we flip it around and think, do you know what? It's not about that. It's about how you can help other people. And if people are logging in to judge you or to look at your hair or critique what you're wearing, they're not your target audience. They're not your target people. Don't worry about it. So we've looked at the confidence side. We've looked at that emotional side, where that belief comes from, how we can unpick it with the truth, and how we can really communicate. So let's add the icing on the cake. This is Albert Mehrabian's development and communications pie chart. What you actually say when you communicate, only 7% of what the other person receives information-wise are the words. So have a think about that. When you're listening to a speaker, a pitch, a presenter, a talk at work, somebody giving you a sales pitch, somebody giving you a team meeting, only 7% of the information you're actually receiving is the words. 38% are the vocal elements, the voice, the pitch, the volume, the intonation, the rhythm, the rate, and 55% are the gestures. So the non-verbal, the posture, the facial expressions, how they come across. That is really clear when you think about maybe presidents that, without being political, that caused controversy. That's fairly neutral. Let's think about Trump, for example. Let's just go in the deep end. Let's think about Donald Trump. Controversial, correct? Fair enough. What he was saying, if you look at some of the things that he actually said, comedy gold. You'd expect to see it on Dave. Some of the things that he was saying, mind-blowingly good in terms of just madness. That's a clear example of where the words could have been written by a 6-year-old. But the way he delivered it, the gestures, the rallying up, the use of voice got people going, yes, 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 when we're all sat across the pond going, what on earth is going on? So that's how these vocal elements, these non-verbal aspects of communication really make a difference. So how does that work for you? Non-verbal on Zoom and in person. Well, let's just cover those ones first, parts of your communication and how you can come across confident. Non-verbal, sitting up straight with the camera about arm's length away. Reason being, we want the person that you're talking to, or the audience, whoever that might be, the conversation, we want it to feel as real as possible. We want it to feel as lifelike. If they can only see your forehead, or they're looking down, they're looking up, really odd cameras, it's not realistic. So already we've put a little barrier in the place. You want to slightly lean back to create an open, friendly, relaxed posture. So if you're kind of closed off and small, it becomes a little bit more intense and a little bit more straightforward focused. Whereas if we're leaning back, we're very friendly. We're open to conversation. We're here. We're happy to be here. We want to talk about this. Eye contact to the camera if you can. It's a hard one, especially with webcams. And if you've got slides, I often find with Zoom and Teams, if the people are on the bottom, I like to talk to the people that are on the call, because even though they aren't in the same room as me, I like to feel like I'm giving them eye contact where the camera's up there. So it is a really, really tricky one. If you've got notes or anything like that, I advise you to either attach them to the screen, or if you are talking in real life, believe it or not, which I don't think we're doing for another 4 weeks, if you are actually giving a talk or presentation in the office, if you've got notes, keep them here. It's a real classic acting tip. If you ever see actors rehearse with a script, it's there, because they can deliver. They can deliver the content, and they can look and they can deliver. And they're just talking to you, and they're reading the script, and they're just going into the peripheral and reading there. So they're going to tell you something about a great product, a new marketing strategy, a new pitch, a presentation, a job interview, and they're going to look at their notes and they're going to come back. If I had the notes here, I've gone. You've got the top of my head. We've lost all connection. Oh, hi, how are you? I've gone again. That is really, really key to keeping your audience engaged. Once you lose that engagement, game over. So we want to keep that audience engaged, keeping eye contact. Smile, and I've put no really. do smile. I'll explain why from a voice point of view, but obviously it's a warmth. It's a really warm gesture. It's inviting. It makes people feel at ease and comfortable in your presence. So we talked about 55% of communication being non-verbal. If you want to look confident, if you want to come across confident, up straight, lean back, eye contact. I've popped here, keep your hands free and try to keep the natural movements and gestures. This is online and face-to-face. Because if I'm sat on my hands and you can't see it, that's not how I talk to you in real life. You can't really see me that well. It's all quite wooden. It all feels a little bit awkward. However, if I sit back, I talk to you as I would. I mean, I'm quite dynamic anyway. I think it's a performing background. So there's always a lot of jazz hands with me. But if you are quite expressionate with your hands or your face, keep that going. Don't pull that in because you're in a talk or a presentation or online. Keep it as natural as possible because then people will connect with you. Cliche saying, people like people. The reason people buy is they don't buy products, they buy people. You can see that when you look at Apple and Steve Jobs and the companies that have those, a thing going around LinkedIn that showed how many likes or subscribes the actual company had compared to the CEO. And the CEOs had absolutely miles more traction than the actual brand. So people buy from people. People connect with people. So if you're doing a one-to-one, a presentation, a talk with anybody, if you just want to get your point across, if you can be natural and open, people will connect with you and help that confidence. So that's the non-verbal. Now let's look at the verbal side of it, which is my favorite part, looking at the use of your voice. Just check the time. We are doing well. So use of voice. The first one I want to talk to you about is pace. And this is the first thing that goes if you are struggling with confidence. So if you're struggling with the confidence and you've got to do a talk or you've got to even get your point across, this normally happens and we just think, oh my goodness, I just need to get it over and done with and I'm just going to talk really quickly. You can hear the tone of my voice has just gone really, really flat. It's quite monotone. I'm just throwing a load of information at you. If you're listening to that, you're probably kind of feeling like you're getting hit by a multitude of information. You don't really know what's important, what's not important. It slowly turns into a long mumble of just the same noise. Also, with pace, think about your great speakers, your strong public speakers. Obama was fantastic for this work. If you ever watch any of his early speeches, he really takes his time. He breathes in between each point to make sure it's accentuated and the important information is heard. By slowing down the pace, you will feel like you're talking like this. You're not, I promise. But if you slow down your pace, if you breathe in between sentences, in through the nose, let your belly expand, have a full breath and then breathe out, not only does that release the cortisol, it brings that stress hormone down. It gives you a little bit more control because you're less anxious, less stressed. Nice breathe in through the nose, belly out through the mouth while you're speaking. So I'm breathing out while I'm talking. It gives you a lovely clear tone. It also slows the pace down. Now, why is this important? If you've got something important to say and you rush through it, it's not important. By rushing through something, you're apologizing for taking up the space. Have a think about that. By rushing through something, by thinking, oh, can I just get my point in? You're apologizing for taking up the space. Why would you apologize? Well, you'd only apologize if it wasn't worth anything. But it is, right? You want to get confident in what you're saying, so own the space. If you've got something that you want to be heard, you want somebody to listen to, take your time. Standard EastEnders stuff. Think of Corrie, think of EastEnders when they have those big dum, 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 dum moments that are just incredible. There's always a pause, a dramatic pause, and then a slow use of voice. Now, I'm not saying go into a meeting or a one-to-one or a conversation with your team and talk like this. I mean, it'd give you a thing, the guy or girl who talks with a really dramatic voice. But I'm not sure that's what you're going for right now. But just really slow your pace down so that you can be heard. Make people listen. If you rush through it, they're not going to listen. And all they're going to remember is, oh, you said something, but it wasn't important. So take your time. Head and neck sounds absolutely wild, doesn't it? But make sure that your head and neck are up here and not here. There's something called tech neck, as in technology neck, from phones, computers, laptops, whatever devices, where if we sit a little bit forward like this, these muscles, the SCM muscles, become quite tight, and it stops the larynx from moving properly, which can cause a little bit of tension in the voice. You can already hear it in my voice. It makes everything really, really hard to speak, and it can cause tension, which is really, really hard to get rid of. So when you are speaking, just make sure it almost feels like you're getting pulled up by this big messy bun on the top of your head, if you've got one, or there's something just pulling you up so that your head's just sat on top here. And we're not talking here. You should have a slight curve at the top of the spine, but just make sure you're sat up nice and high. Not only does it give you a little bit more confidence and it helps your body stretch out and feel the space, much like the pace, you want to fill the space, be heard, be seen. It also massively helps from a vocal production point of view. So making sure you're nice and high here. If you're here, larynx can't move, everything becomes tight. You'll find yourself needing to swallow, and the actual sound, as you can already hear, becomes a little bit pinched, which just doesn't sound great. Diction, you want to be as clear as you can. You're going to feel like you're talking like this. Add in that slow pace as well. Oh my goodness, it'll be hilarious. But you are going to want to really articulate as much as possible. Reason being, you want people to be able to hear you. That's it. If you're mumbling and you're just kind of getting everything across, it's really monotone. Everything kind of gets lost a little bit. It sits quite far back in the voice. It's not really clear. There's nothing that's going to stick out or of any importance. So what you're going to do is a tongue release exercise. So you're going to circle the tongue in front of the teeth. That feels like a tongue twister already. 10 times one way, 10 times the other. I'll show you what I mean. 10 one way, 10 the other. If you do that now, I can't see you, so go for it. Go strong and wrong with this one. I imagine most of you will get a bit of an ache at the back of the tongue. It's something called tongue root tension. Don't worry, you don't need to see the GP about it. It's just a little bit tension. So it just means that if you do that, before you start speaking, your tongue will work a little bit harder. Fantastic. That's what we want. The tongue is responsible for those clear diction, vowels, consonants. So just warm that tongue up, warm the jaw up. We talk about jaw release. Get the jaw nice and warm. You don't want to be going into a meeting kind of mumbling like this, because you could have a great point. It's never going to get heard. There's no passion. There's no sound. It's just a bit of a mumbling noise. When we talk about passion, we look at what words you want to get across. So if you're talking in public and you want to sound confident, what do you want to sound confident about? Are you talking about a product? Are you talking about a time you went on holiday? You'll notice the vowels are the most important part here. None of us have a problem explaining how good a night out we had back in the 70s when we could go out. Or none of us have a problem talking about how amazing our holidays or weekends were, using passion. For example, I went abroad. I went abroad and it was gorgeous. It was so sunny. You're already hearing so sunny. It was gorgeous. All of this passion is coming through because I believe it. Now, it's the same thing if you're talking to somebody. What do you believe? If you're really excited about something, show them, tell them. One, it gets the passion across, and two, it's easier for your voice. It just does it naturally. So pick which parts of your conversation you're passionate about and really use your integrity and really use your soul with this kind of work. You don't want to fake it till you make it. You see so many voice courses that talk about kind of faking and writing your script out and highlight the important words and make sure you push on those. And it just sounds so pre-recorded and fake. If you want to be genuine, use genuine passion. If you're fed up of something, show people you're fed up of something. I'm fed up of feeling like this here. No, I'm fed up of feeling so tired. Tell me what it feels like. I want to know. Get the passion across. People will listen if there's passion attached. If there isn't passion attached, it gets lost in the crowd. And your vowels are a fantastic way to do this. So as a warm-up exercise, jaw, tongue release, the circles, and your vowels. Really over-articulate the A, E, I, O, and what we call oo instead of U. Just really open vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Really open the jaw. Really get everything working so that when you do work, you're focusing on the vowel sound. A vowel makes up the word. For example, if I look at that list of words and get rid of the vowels, this is going to be horrendous. Had, nk, dikt, n, t, g. You can see there's no sound. If I just use the vowel, ace, egg, Ian, only, orally, aya. You can see that there's still sound. Yes, it makes absolutely zero sense, but there's more sound. And that just goes to show how important the vowels are when we're trying to sound engaging and passionate. That leads us to our last little bit, which is the idea of imposter syndrome. Now, this is something that I wanted to touch on after talking to a few guys that had come from coding camps and coding schools, and they spoke about imposter syndrome and how that isn't touched on and they wish it was. What is it? First of all, it's that feeling of walking into a room or going into a situation, a call, a project, and feeling like a fraud, feeling like an imposter. Self-doubt, insecurity, lack of self-belief. What if you get found out? I can't do this. Everyone else can do it. They're all looking at me. I feel like an imposter. Something we call pluralistic ignorance, which means we think it's just us. It's not. We believe that we're the only ones that feel like that and everyone's looking at us and it's all about us. It's absolutely not. Imposter syndrome is totally normal, and you probably had it from being, or experienced it from being 3 or 4 when you went to nursery for the first time. You're going into somewhere new and you're thinking, oh, what is this? Where am I? That's why kids cry, because they feel out of their depth. It's totally normal. But what can you learn from that? And this is my slightly different take on imposter syndrome. You'll see webinars, you'll see courses on how to beat imposter syndrome, how to banish imposter syndrome. Absolutely not. It's ace. If you're experiencing a little bit of imposter syndrome, you're pushing the boundaries. If you'd have given into that imposter syndrome when you were 3, you'd still be in reception now, which would be really weird. Really, really weird. But imposter syndrome, the idea is, how I see it, it's pushing out of your comfort zone. You're probably on this webinar because you want to receive information. You want to develop. You want to go forward in your careers and your personal life. If you feel that, oh my goodness, I'm not supposed to be here, I feel really out of my comfort zone, there's things we can do to limit that, to understand it. But ultimately, ace, because you've got to feel that to be able to get to the next level. And eventually that, oh my goodness, I feel out of my comfort zone, will feel normal. And that'll be boring. And then you'll go to the next bit and you'll push to your next level. Think of it as a promotion, a self-promotion. Every time you go up in a promotion or start a new job, you walk in thinking, oh my goodness, everyone else knows what they're doing. I feel like a fraud. What if I get found out? What if I can't do it? And then you settle into it, and years down the line, you think, okay, I'm ready for something else. So with imposter syndrome, it's not just you. Please don't worry. It's completely normal, completely normal. And I implore you to fight for it. I love the idea of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome for me personally, purely personally, is when I know I'm progressing because I feel out of my comfort zone. That's where I want to be. I don't want to get complacent. And that is, again, is a personal view on that one. But I really would encourage you to try and see it from that point of view, so you don't worry about it as much. Because again, it's a bit of a buzz topic, a hot topic at the moment. How to deal with it is such a bad thing. It is if you see it as a bad thing. But why not flip the script on it and see it as a positive? Now, how can we challenge it? I've just mentioned to you about pluralistic ignorance. A lot of people experience it. So let's chat about it. Talk about how you feel. Mention that you feel out of your comfort zone. Tell people, do you know what? I'm really not comfortable here. I feel like an absolute fraud. And the person next to you might go, oh, do you know what? I felt exactly the same. Okay. Problem shared, problem halved. You've already got an ally. You already feel a little bit more at ease. Collect positive feedback. Remember when things have gone well. When have you felt like this before and it went really well? Remember that. Document it. Write it down if you need to. And as I've mentioned to you, challenge it. What's the truth here? Oh, well, I feel like a fraud in this situation. Well, what's the truth? Well, you've never been here before. You know other people have. It's a new experience. So you are likely to feel a little bit out of your comfort zone. That's fine. Take ownership. Don't let it happen to you. Take control. Still feel it. This is not about saying, oh, I don't feel it, I'm ignoring it. No, feel it. Feel it and go, wow, okay, I'm feeling this. What does that mean? It means I'm progressing. It means I'm out of my comfort zone. Okay, how do you want to respond? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to make a choice. You're in control here. And that concludes everything that I wanted to talk to you today about confidence, communication, and imposter syndrome within your industry. Now, we're on LinkedIn here, on LinkedIn Live. And if you're watching this back, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn. If you've got any questions about this, you've got my email there. super original. I'm more than aware. Kathy at Kathy Brooke Coaching or www.kathybrooke.coaching, LinkedIn, Kathy Brooke Coaching. Not a lot of creativity went into that. I'm going to be totally honest. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just going to stop the screen share so that I can see if there's any conversations happening or if anyone has anything they want to share. If not, I will speak to you all at another point. But as I say, please feel free to get in touch. And thank you so much to Manchester Codes for putting on this webinar and being able to share this information with you. I know those guys fully support all this development stuff. So you're in very, very good hands. I'll hand you back to Kirsty.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Kathy. I got so many good notes there. It was incredible. I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to just pose to you. So I loved that you mentioned about the neck tension. I thought it was a really important point. And like, do you have any, I mean, obviously, like when you do get really tense, like I've done a lot of public speaking and you can really feel yourself tense up. Is there anything you can do like in the moment that helps?
Yeah. So just before you start, while you're talking.
Not when you're not talking, when you've got maybe a few minutes before you're on.
Yeah, a few minutes before you start, I'll show you the stretches. Why not? We're all friends. So keeping your shoulders down, dropping your head to one side. It sounds really, really obvious and ridiculous, but even as a singer, so these techniques are singing and acting techniques. So it's a little bit different, but these are what singers will do. So you keep your shoulders down, put your ear to the shoulder, and you'll feel a stretch down here. But make sure that these shoulders are down. Everyone's got a habit of kind of teapot kind of going over with it, which does absolutely nothing. So keeping the shoulders down, stretching that one there. And if you can, and it is quite painful, which is a really nice thing for you on a Monday night, if you can fake a yawn in that position, so you're kind of faking this yawn, you'll feel a massive, you'll start yawning now. You'll feel a massive pull down here and on the other side. And then another one is, again, tilting and then just looking up to the ceiling. And that stretches this little muscle here, which is a nightmare to try and get to, but it's also the one that holds the larynx in place. So side, and tilting. Hold them for about 30 seconds. And I'd also massively say in terms of tension, shoulders down and be aware of your lower ab, of your pelvic floor area, which again, intimate for Monday. But just remember to make sure that you're breathing down here. So many people breathe, and we're taught when we're younger, aren't we? Breathe in. What the hell's that? Absolutely. Your lungs are here, your diaphragm's here. So why would you be like that? It makes no sense. When you breathe in, you're supposed to expand. Your lungs fill up with air, your diaphragm drops, all your guts and your organs get out the way. You should be expanding. If you're tight, if you're holding your stomach really, really tight, it's not going to happen. So you're going to get, you can see it already, you're going to get even more tension. So if you just relax, think of meditative breathing, in through the nose, belly out, exhale, and it just releases all of this tension, drops the cortisol in the body, lets your larynx just chill out a little bit more so it's not tense. I'd always say in through the nose, out through the mouth, shoulders down. The shoulders shouldn't be moving. You shouldn't be getting... You can see the tension there already. It's completely counterproductive. And then just a couple of stretches, couple of minutes before you go on, and that'll really relax everything out.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful. And my other question was mainly like touching upon like, oh, there's a reverb. Some people really struggle, and with anxiety and take medication for it, whether that be beta blockers or whatever. But have you got any? So I'll tell you a secret. When I go on, I have this little roller that's got lavender in it, and I'll just put it behind my ear, or I'll spray perfume to give me like confidence sometimes. But do you have any like natural remedies that you might suggest, or like ailments? Little special potions that give people that kind of kick.
Do you know what? It's not my area, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have anything like that. My worry with things like that purely would be because you can see, I can't remember, is it Remedies or something like that? The yellow brand that do sprays, they do all that thing. Fine. What about if you forget them? And you've relied on them for 2 years and you're about to go and do your biggest pitch ever and you're like, oh my God, where the hell are they? And then you have this big meltdown. So I think for me, my side of it all is looking from the mental side of it all, or the confidence and the development side of it all. But I would always say, I mean, standard stuff, caffeine. if you are a naturally, and this is me all over again, sharing secrets. If I can get a little bit worked up and a little bit worried about daft things. If I've had 4 coffees beforehand, it's game over. It's twitchy, it's nervous, my heart's going. So the only thing I would recommend from a natural remedy is, if you are prone to being anxious, to being worried, don't bring your own heart rate up at the same time. Don't do it. Just chill out as much as you can. I don't know, get a Joe Wicks yoga on from, he did about five years worth of them in lockdown. Get some kind of nice yoga on, or some relaxing music on, or something like that. Don't think, oh, do you know what, I'm going to psych myself up and have 6 Red Bulls and half a line of Nescafe coffee. Just kind of relax into it. Don't screw yourself over. That would be my professional opinion on that one.
All right. Well, thanks, Kathy. I appreciate that. That was so helpful. And so how can people get in touch? If people want a one-to-one, want to kind of work more closely with you, how's the best way that people can get in touch?
Yep. So I can, obviously, you've got me on LinkedIn here, website, Kathy Brooke Coaching, or feel free to just drop me a message on LinkedIn on Kathy Brooke Coaching. I will find this one and pop a little consultation call. So if anyone would like a chat, I'll pop the link below, and you are more than welcome to book in, and we'll have a chat, see how I can help you, if I can help you. We want to make sure it's right for you and it's not just a quick fix. And if not, I can point you in the right direction. But yeah, that is how you can get in touch with me.
Okay, fab. Thank you so much again, Kathy. It's been wonderful.
Pleasure.
And yeah, a little bit about us is that we're a coding school, and we teach JavaScript, and we provide a 6-month course. It's 24 weeks long, and sometimes people do miss that the last bit, which is overcoming those limiting beliefs about themselves. So, Kathy, some of your points will really, really help our community. So, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Okay, right. I'll end it here, and everyone have a lovely evening, and we'll be in touch. We'll speak to you soon. Bye, everyone.